I want to pray first before we do our devotion. Father, I thank you. Um, Lord, I just thank you for your word, Father, that helps us in every area of our life and every step of our life, Father, because you do not change, Lord. And we're so grateful for that, Father. Lord, I thank you for this group of women here, Father, and I pray that you would just turn our hearts towards you, Lord. In your name we pray, amen. I'm going to do the devotion a little bit different today. Um, can you hear me? You can't hear me? I don't want it on my lips. Yeah. Um, I found a really neat blog, and I just kind of stumbled upon it. But then I think maybe I didn't stumble upon it. Maybe the Lord led me to that particular blog. And so I've been reading her for quite a while now. And how many of you guys read blogs? Does anybody in here read blogs? What I would like to do is compile a list of blogs that are encouraging to moms. So if you have a blog that you read every day, if you can shoot it to me in an email, I would really appreciate that. So the one I've been reading is from a website called Manna for Moms. And this woman is a mom with young children, and so she always writes about young children and how God is shaping her. And so I printed up 2 of hers today because I couldn't decide which one to share with you guys. So I'm going to do a show of hands. I'm going to tell you what they are. And whichever one has the most hands, that's the one I'm going to share with you. So one is called A Mother's Hand, and one is called God Sees. So who wants Mother's Hand? I'm not even going to tell you what they're about. Just by the title, A Mother's Hand. Raise your hand. I did. I told you it's called God Sees. God Sees? Okay, we're going with God Sees. Okay, her name is Megan Breedlove, and her website is www.mannaformoms.com. All right. And she writes just like she's writing to you guys. That's what I loved about it. So I'm just going to read it totally like she wrote it. And I have permission. She writes on her website that you can use any of her materials. So this is done with permission. I didn't like swipe it from her. Okay. Thank you. Precious mommy friend. And I probably will cry because usually when I read her stuff, I cry. So, precious mommy friend, this devotional is going to be a little bit different from the ones I usually write. I don't have a story involving one of my kids to share. I don't have anything funny to say. But I do have a word from the Lord, which he wants me to share, so that in writing of it, I may be encouraged, and in reading of it, you may be too. In the Bible, God reveals himself in many ways, often through one of his names, which is especially relevant to the situation. The name I want to focus on this week is El Roi, the God who sees. In Genesis 16, Hagar recognizes God as El Roi because he responded to her in her time of extreme need. Therefore, she knew he must have seen her in despair. And I wondered when I read this, he sees us when we're in despair too. And because there is no shadow of turning with God, we can know that he sees us too. He sees us not only in our times of suffering or difficulty, but always. He is intimately aware of even the smallest details of our lives. So, may I offer you some words of encouragement this week, some ways in which God might see you as you go about your mothering. When you're so tired, you give anything for just 15 minutes more of sleep. When you can't remember the last time you slept a solid 8 hours. When weariness is coloring your world in shades of gray, God sees. When you crave time out of your day to spend preparing a nice meal, only to have your kids reject it, God sees. When you're awake, again, in the middle of the night, feeding a hungry baby, and it feels like you're alone in the world, God sees. Or when it's the middle of the day, and you're lonely because you haven't had time for a good, long phone conversation with your best friend, much less time for a lunch date, because you've been busy mothering, God sees. When you clean up vomit or give another dose of cough medicine at 3 a.m., God sees. When you do the best that you can do, and it's still a horrible day, God sees. When you need a friend, when you need encouragement, when you need strength, when you need sleep, when you spend all day doing things that no one notices, though they would certainly notice if you didn't do them, remember, God sees. We've talked about that a lot. Friend, you do not walk alone. God walks every step of the way. He sees what you do for your family, which is ultimately what you do for him. He knows how hard it can be. He knows that sometimes being a mom doesn't seem so great. He knows we sometimes have to struggle for patience, for creativity, and for endurance. He knows it's hard to be a great mom on 4 hours of sleep, or when you're doing it alone, or when other circumstances in your life are crowding in. But best of all, not only does he know, but he cares. Just as listening involves hearing, but is so much more, I believe that in this passage, God sees refers to the reality that he both sees and cares. And as if that weren't enough, he does something about our struggles, just as he did for Hagar. He comes to us. What an incredible encouragement to know that God has chosen to be with us, in us, as we live our lives. Try something this week. As you go throughout your days, remember that God is El Roy, the God who sees. In your spectacular moments, in your mundane moments, and everything in between, he sees, he cares, and he loves. I can think of nothing more incredible than that. Be encouraged, dear friend. Genesis 16:13 says, "She gave this name to the Lord who spoke to her. You are the God who sees me. For she said, I have now seen the one who sees me." And I just think that's super encouragement. She writes like that all the time, just for moms with little kids. And you guys find a blog that can help you in your daily struggles, because there's a lot of them out there. And I think in this day and age, use the resources that are out there. I mean, when we were raising kids, we had nothing like this to encourage us along. So I just encourage you to find something that speaks to you. And maybe if I get a whole bunch of them, we can put them in the newsletter or something maybe next month. Not this month, maybe in May. That'd be good for Mother's Day. So anyways, thank you. Let's pray. Father, we thank you that we can stand on the truth that you do see, Father, that you see when we struggle, you see when we hurt, you see everything that's going on in our lives, Father, and we know that you do care. And so I pray, Father, that all of us here would just lean on you and keep our eyes on you and not on what we see, because we know that you're doing a work, Lord, even then we don't realize it. Lord, we love you and we thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to introduce Pam to you, our speaker today. She obviously is a renowned author. If you just turn your head for half a second, you will see a variety of the books that she has written and authored, or her husband has authored. I'm going to introduce you, just reading from what was on her website, just a personal story. When my husband and I were getting married, the man who led us through our marriage counseling, he actually used one of their books, Men Are Like Waffles, Women Are Like Spaghetti, and that's what she's going to talk about today. And it's become a joke with my husband and I, and we joke about it all the time, and you'll understand it after you hear her talk today. But she's great. She's so friendly already. I feel like we're best friends. So anyway, let me introduce you to her. She's been married to her husband, Bill, and have been fascinated with the question, how, ever since they met. When they got married, they knew 3 things. 1, we love Jesus. 2, we love each other. 3, we have a lot to learn if we want to have a successful marriage. That created a passion in their hearts to figure out how relationships work. They've sought answers to these questions through reading books, personal growth as a couple, and through professional research. They honestly believe anyone can have a great relationship, so they've devoted their lives to sharing the practical insight they have learned with as many people as possible, and that includes you ladies today. Woohoo! She's a relationship specialist, international speaker, and author of over 25 books. So really do take advantage of this. Will you even sign them for us today? I was already thinking in my head of the ones I wanted to get for the friends and family I know that are getting married this year. So check those books out. She was formerly a pastor's wife, director of women's ministries. She's now president of Seasoned Sisters. Her and her husband, Bill, write a column on relationships and are frequent guests on shows like Focus on the Family. If you've read any of their books, you will realize they both have an uncanny ability to present the research in down-to-earth, everyday language through word pictures, practical exercises, and strategic stories. They simplify relationship principles so the average person knows how to live them out. They have 3 active children, ages 20 through 26, and have been working with couples their entire life. And for fun, they enjoy cheering for their sons at sporting events, reading, and exercising together, especially when it consists of kayaking or a long walk on the beach, just like the rest of us. Would you welcome Pam with me?
go. So can you, there we go. We're all good. So I've been married 34 years now, and it just keeps getting better and better every year. It's kind of like putting money in the bank. You invest a lot at this age, and you get some good dividends later on down the road, yeah? When you can pay for your kids to go to movies or to church camp, and it's just you and your husband. The day will come, girls. Just hang in there. I never regretted the time that I spent with my kids at this age and with other moms that wanted the best for their kids. And so I just want to compliment you. Our ministry is called Love Wise. It's the intersection of love and wisdom. And my daughter-in-law, our 3 grandkids are this age, the age of your kids, and so oftentimes I will go over there, and they live in Phoenix, and spend time over there so they can have a much needed and well-deserved break as well. And because you are hanging out with women who want God's best, I think that you are very wise. So turn to your friend that's sitting next to you and say, yeah, I think you're pretty wise too. Can you do that? Well, I brought a few little resources. I'm going to do a little quiz here right off the bat to see how you girls are doing. In 52 Ways to Wow Your Husband, I challenge women to do something to wow their husbands every week for a full year. And that's like a whole other talk, but I am going to give like a little quiz here this morning. Women's health. Oh, and by the way, like I know a lot of you are thinking, well, why wow him? He needs to wow me. My husband and my boys are working on an app for that. Okay, we'll let you know when that happens. And on your table, there's a little prayer card. And if you give me your name and email, we'll use that as a drawing today. But also, that's your way of hearing about when resources like that become available. And anyway, so I have a little quiz for you. Women's Health magazine published the results of a common sense study that revealed that women who greeted their spouse good morning as they started their day had better days than those who didn't. Of the couples that say good morning to each other, 94% rate their relationship as excellent. A positive greeting sets an upbeat tone for the entire day. My friend Karen Porter, she wrote a book called And I'll Bring the Chocolates. She asked her husband, when I ask my friends to send in, how did you wow your husband? She actually asked her husband. George and I have been married 45 years, and after a whirlwind engagement, I asked George to think of all the things that had happened in those 44 years and tell me which one wowed him. His answer, Karen, the thing that pleases me the most is that you wake up every day happy and cheerful and full of joy. It makes every day a wow. So, how many of you said good morning or greeted your husband with a good morning hug or kiss or something else? Good. Okay, you get a point. You get a point. Okay, and then this summer I was writing Red Hot Romance Tips, and we'll be starting tomorrow, April 2nd, our ministry is running a Red Hot Romance Club for wives, 26 days. It's actually a Red Hot Romance wife challenge for 26 days. There's 26 traits I talk about in this little book that make a big impact on your marriage. And there's a private Facebook page that you can be a part. And so if you pick this up today, it's just $5. But if you pick it up, you can go to our Lovewise website, and there's an ad on the front page. Just click on, and it'll give you all the details about how you can get on the insider track of that of that Red Hot Wife Challenge. And well, there's a study that I found this summer that even a 6-minute hug helps the recipient have lower stress and raises their happiness level. So how many of you also gave your husband a 6-second hug? 6-second hug. 6-second hug. And that doesn't sound very long, but try counting next time you hug. 6 seconds is longer than you think. Yeah, 6-second hug. Yeah, 6-minute hug, that would probably lead to red hot monogamy. Yeah, so It's a whole other thing. Yeah. Well, one of the things that I have the privilege of doing is oftentimes men are like waffles, and like spaghetti has now been translated into 14 different languages, Spanish, Chinese, German. The Chinese one has a really unique cover. It has like noodles, a bowl of noodles, but then it has like an egg. And I'm not sure how that translates to waffles, but must be compartments in the egg. I don't know. But so it's been translated to a lot of different languages. And last year, I'll tell you what happened 7 years ago first. So about 7 years ago, the government of Singapore called and they said, Pam, Bill, want you to come to Singapore to speak to our college, university students, to help them fall in love, get married young, have many baby, make strong Singapore. We're like, yeah, we're there. That's a great message. We're 100% behind you on that one. And so we went over and spoke to the National Singles Convention, and then we went back to the National Marriage Convention, and we've gone back for 7 years. And a year ago, the government asked us to create, everybody who gets married in Singapore has to go through premarital and counseling by law. And so I know like marriages would last longer. They do last longer over there. So they asked us to create a 4-week DVD that every person in the country goes through, and it's all biblically based. It's called Love Notes. And, you know, I just want to encourage you that sometimes the little things that you're doing today, you don't know what God's going to do years later down the road. You know, if you're just faithful in little things and giving that 6-second hug and saying good morning, God might decide to put your marriage on display around the world to help other people. So what you're doing right now matters. You're important. And what we've seen is it doesn't matter where we go, all around the world, people really care about relationships. It doesn't matter what country, what city, everybody cares about relationships. And I think one of the common denominators and why Men Are Like Waffles, Like Spaghetti was translated into so many different languages now is because men and women are different. And it goes all the way back to Genesis 1:27. God made them male and female. He created them. And sometimes we delight in those differences, and sometimes they drive us crazy. And so the big question is, how can we use those differences to work for us in all of our relationships? And so what does it mean that men are like waffles and like spaghetti? Well, if you look at the top of a waffle, there are boxes separated by walls. And that's what a guy's mind looks like. So look at a guy's mind. He puts one thing in every one of those individual boxes. And so he thinks of one thing and one thing only at a time. And so when a man's at work, he's at work. And when he's in the garage, he's in the garage. And when he's mowing the lawn, he's mowing the lawn. And when he's watching TV, he's watching TV. Yeah. He does one thing and one thing only at a time. So by nature, he's a problem solver. He likes to go into a box, figure out what the problem is, assign a solution, and then move on. And if he gets to a box and he sees what the problem is, but he doesn't know the solution, he just moves on. Like, why stay in the box if you don't know the answer? And so guys are problem solvers by nature. And we ask women, around the world, what do you appreciate most about the opposite gender? Whether it was for the teenage version of Waffles and Spaghetti, the singles, or the married, or any of those languages. So it didn't matter what age or stage or country, 50% of all women said the thing they appreciate most about the guys is their ability to shut down their emotions and handle the crisis at hand, especially if it's our crisis they're helping to handle, yeah? And that's compartmentalizing. That's what social scientists have called it, compartmentalizing. And compartmentalizing at its premium, maybe a good picture was 9/11. You know, the Twin Towers are falling, and Mayor Giuliani, he has friends that are perishing in those Twin Towers. But he shuts down his emotions, he shuts down his own grief to run through the streets of New York, firing off directives to save more lives. That's compartmentalizing at its best. And that's what we girls appreciate about the guys. But that's very different than the way that God wired us women. The way God wired us is, social scientists call it integration. And it looks more like one noodle laying on a plate of spaghetti. If you follow that noodle around that plate, it looks like it touches pretty much every other noodle on the plate. And that's the same way we women process life, is we travel through life making emotional connections to the people and things that matter most to us. And so by nature, we're really great at multitasking. I mean, we can be on the phone with our friend, and her life's all falling apart, and we're watching Oprah, and there's Dr. Phil, and he's saying, how's that working for you? So we're like, how's that working for you, honey? Yeah, you should probably come to M.O.P.S. Those girls are so nice. They'll really help you out, hon. At the same time, we're writing our Christmas card list and our grocery list and our to-do list for our husband and our 6 kids, as we're telling the kids in sign language to quit fighting. Can't you see I'm on the phone? Got to load in the washer, load in the dryer. We're cooking dinner, and we can open and shut the oven door with our foot. Can't we, girls? Yeah? And you M.O.P.S. moms, you can do all of that holding a baby with a diaper bag and shutting the car door. I've seen you do it. Like, you're like amazing multitaskers. But that's very different than the way God created guys. And so when it comes to the area of, that multitasking thing, it's a gift. It's a gift that benefits the family, the church, the community, the workplace. But sometimes that multitasking thing can drive the men in our world, our husband, our dad, our son, our brother, a little bit crazy, especially in the area of communication. You know, we might walk into the office or our bedroom at home and say, honey, you know, the other day I was driving by your favorite truck store. You know, the truck store that you bought the cup holder, not the one that goes on the console, but the one that like hangs on the door. And yeah, right next to your favorite truck store, there's this really cute dress shop. And in the window of that dress shop is like this really cute suit, you know, like really cute suit. Like, remember Hillary Clinton? She like has a new suit like every day, like Easter egg colors, like every day. It's like cute like that. Like, yeah, I think it's like a spring color. You know, we had that thing at M.O.P.S. where that girl came in and she talked about colors. There's spring, summer, winter, fall. And I'm like, a spring color? It was like that color. And I knew if I bought it and put it on, you'd say, ooh, baby, you look so fine. And I like totally love it when you say that. And, you know, it was on sale, so I totally saved you money. And it was kind of like that color that Mrs. Clinton, no, is Miss Obama. Yeah, at the inauguration. You remember, like, her first inauguration, there was, like, all those balls. Like, I think there's 5 of them. And she got to change into a new ball gown, like, every ball she went to. And the second one was, like, this really pretty yellow one. And I thought, I would look so good in that. And that's the color of that suit. And, like, isn't it amazing I have, like, the same color palette as, like, Mrs. Obama? And, you know, it was kind of, you probably don't really follow that stuff. But, hey, I know that you were watching the Winter Olympics, right? And, you know, there was that German skating team, remember? And they had that all-black outfit. It had that yellow stripe right in the middle of it. And it was kind of like that yellow. And didn't that yellow stripe down the middle make those girls look like so skinny? I should like wear stripes every day, don't you think? And so it was kind of like, you know, those skater girls. And oh, do you remember what happened to them? That was like so sad. You know, they were totally ahead. And the very end, that German skater, she fell right at the finish line. And I'm thinking, 4 years of your life. I mean, and then you fall right at the finish line. It's like so incredibly sad. And honey, it just reminds me of our kids. They're going to be starting school. And what if they don't make good choices? What if they like fall down in their faith? Honey, I think we should stop and pray for the kids right now. And while we've been talking, he's been frantically jumping boxes trying to figure out where is this conversation going. And while we think he's praying for the kids, what he's really asking is, so what about my truck? Because that's what we started with. Yeah, men are like waffles and like spaghetti. We are definitely different. And there's probably something really important that I should share about. I raised 3 boys. And there's one thing you should share about how guys are wired, and that some of the boxes on every man's waffle, they're absolutely, positively blank, like that screen. There is nothing going on there. And I mean, you've probably seen them. They're like parking it. And usually when they're in their blank box, we get like radar for that. And we ask the dreaded question, what you thinking? Yeah, and their eyes get this kind of like deer in the headlights look, and they start darting back and forth because they're looking for a box nearby that might have a word in it that they can drop into and answer our question. And then we misinterpret the delay, and we're like, you aren't really telling me what you're really thinking. Now you're just making something up. But now you know what they're really thinking is nothing. That's right. Men are like waffles, women like spaghetti. We are different. And my husband likes to quote his favorite theologian at times like this, and that would be Rocky Balboa. And so Rocky, he's dating Adrian. He's working at a pet shop, and Adrian's brother walks in.
Yo, Rocky, what you do with my sister?
And Rocky says,
She got gaps. I got gaps. We fill each other's gaps.
pretty good theology, actually. Yeah, Genesis 1, God made us male and female before the fall, knowing that we were to complement each other and use those differences to work for us, for our families, and for our futures. Men are like waffles, like spaghetti. So, what's the ramifications of all of that? Well, men and women, we do communicate differently. We relate differently. And so that means that if you want your husband to learn how to follow you with all of that spaghetti, I encourage you to come to one of our conferences or download at lifeway.com. You can download the DVD right onto your computer. There's 7 sessions of our Bible study there. But he likes to school guys up how they can pack up their bags and go on a listening journey with you. But how about our side of the equation? What can we do because we communicate so differently? Well, one of the things that we can do is to appreciate the differences between how men and women communicate. And so when it's your husband's turn to talk, he'll pack up those listening bags and go on a listening journey. But what do we girls do? What's the gift that we can give to the guys? Well, we can give the gift of staying in the box. We women have between 3 and 10 times as many words per day as the average male. So we can basically just out-talk the guys. And because of that, a lot of times we sell men short just because they don't respond to life the way we respond to life. We think something's wrong with them, like they're broken. And one of the best illustrations that I saw of this is actually a cartoon. And there was this young woman, she's like college age, and she walked up to her uncle and she's like, "Oh, uncle, everything you did just totally changed my life." And the man took out his business card and he handed it to her. He said, "You can take this down to the petroleum store. They'll give you 10% off of your gasoline." And the wife saw the whole interaction. She's like, "Okay, our niece was pouring out her heart. You handed her a business card? Have you no feelings?" And he said, "I have feelings. I was afraid she's going to hug me. I was scared it was going to go on, and I was happy when it was over. I have feelings." Guys really do have feelings. They're just slower to reveal themselves. It takes them a little time. Their best of their feelings are buried in the very bottom of every one of those individual waffle box compartments. So it just takes them a little bit of time to weave their way down and share the very best of who they are with us. I mean, I raised 3 good boys. I know boys have feelings. Like my son Brock, when he was a senior in high school, quarterback, lost his homecoming game. He had some feelings about that, but not as many as the next night when he took his girlfriend to the homecoming dance and she left with another guy halfway through with Brock's keys in her purse. Yeah, he had some feelings about that one. Yeah. So guys really do have feelings, but they just take a while to reveal themselves to us. And so the question that I get asked most often is, how do I get my son? How do I get my dad? How do I get my brother? How do I get my husband to open up to me? And so the tip is to go into their box. And like one woman put it like this. She was engaged. And she's like, "I'm really excited to get married to my fiance, Pam. I mean, he's such a good moral man. He's good looking. He's a great provider. He'll probably be a great dad, but I'm kind of afraid." And I'm like, "Well, why are you afraid, girlfriend?" And she said, "I think something's wrong with them. I think, let me think. In university, what they call it, emotionally shallow. I think he's emotionally shallow. And I just started to laugh. And the reason why I started to smile is because she just hadn't found the key to unlocking her guy's heart. And that is men like to live in, dwell in, camp out in boxes they feel super successful in and totally avoid boxes they don't feel successful in. And so I was looking for the box he feels successful in or comfortable in. So I asked her, tell me about your fiance. Because I'm looking for that box he feels comfortable. And she's like, he's a race car driver. I said, there you go. Baby girl, you just get yourself into the garage. When you're in the garage, just repeat back key things to keep him talking. She's like, all right. So she goes into the garage, and of course he's working on the race car. So he's torquing this, and he's tweaking that. And he's talking about rods and pistons and flywheels. And she's dutifully repeating back the car parts. She doesn't have a clue what she's really talking about, but she's repeating back those car parts. And all of a sudden, he comes out from underneath the car. He puts his hand on the hood of the car, and he says, nobody's ever cared about my world like this, honey. Nobody's ever loved me like you love me. I'm so excited to get married to you. I want to build us a big 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, and I'll put a balcony out back and a front porch, and I'll hang up a swing set for the kids that we'll have someday, and I'll put up a swing on the front porch so that every day when I come home from work, I can bring you a skinny vanilla latte from Starbucks and just slide in next to you and listen to your heart as we watch the sunset over the Temecula wine fields with the balloons flying in the air. And she told me later, I never want to leave the garage again. Because she found the key to unlocking her guy's heart. Find the box he feels comfortable in, park yourself in it, and become a great listener. What we girls do too oftentimes instead is because our minds are like spaghetti. When a guy brings up one subject to talk about, he actually thinks it's that subject that you're going to talk about. But because our minds are like spaghetti, we see the 5 or 6 other boxes that are surrounding that first box, and we just start opening up boxes or opening up topics, opening up issues. Now, the problem with that is because men are problem solvers, when one box is open, that's one problem to solve. When it's 2 boxes open, that's 2 problems to solve. When it's 3 boxes open, that's 3 problems to solve, and so on. And every male has a limit on how many boxes or how many issues he can have presenting at the same time. And if we get too many boxes going, girls, we'll know it. Because one of 2 things is probably going to happen. He's either going to fire up and become angry. We're like, what? I was just talking. Or he's just going to shut that conversation down and escape to one of his favorite boxes like the garage, and you're just chasing with your words. So nobody's needs are getting met there. So the gift that we can give is the gift of staying in the box, especially one of his favorite boxes, and become a great listener. So before I go on, I want you to turn to your girlfriend, see if you can identify one of your husband's favorite boxes. Go. Well, I think one of the things we women struggle with is in the area of communication, presenting the softer side of ourselves, as becoming a softer listener. It's really easy for us, especially when, we have lots of kids and lots of responsibility to get the whole Kate+8 attitude going. And so I've been really looking for a way to help myself as well as all of us girls. I mean, if you really think about it, it goes back to the Garden of Eden. After the fall, the Bible says that we would struggle with this whole control freak thing, and your husband will have lead over you. And I mean, if you think about it, Eve thought she had a better idea than God. So she was a little bit of a control freak going into the fall. And then afterwards, she really struggled with the whole control freak thing. And I think it's one of the things we all struggle with is it's easy for us to be harsh and controlling and hard for us to be our sweet, softer self that our husband probably fell in love with. And so write down softer. I have a little acrostic that can help you with this. How to really touch his heart to open him up. So the S is for stop what you're doing and turn towards your mate. So when your husband walks in the door, let's say from work, I always think that we should like stand up and greet him. Seems like we should be more excited than the puppy is that our husband is home, right, girls? And so stop what you're doing and turn. And then O is open up your body language. And that just means, don't cross your arms or stand with your hand on your hip like you're taking up my busy time, guy. So O, open up your body language. F is find key words or key phrases to repeat. And remember, I mentioned that with the girl who went into the garage. She found key words to repeat. And then T is to try not to take compliments personally. Try not to take comments, he says, personally. This is probably the hardest one. So as he's venturing out to share what's in one of those boxes, try not to react. Try to mentally count to 10 or say, Lord Jesus, help me in your head. Then E, express affirming emotions. So if there's something nice to say, go ahead and reach out and say it. And R is respond with a loving action. Touch his hand, scratch his back, run your hand across his shoulders. Thanks for sharing that, hon. Appreciate you opening up to me. And because if we respond softer, he's going to want to return to that conversation box again because he feels successful in it. Guys only like to spend time in boxes they feel successful in. So if we can help them feel successful in that communication box, they're going to want to return there once again. And so what are some things that we can do that will help in this whole area of communication? Well, there's 4 simple steps that we can take to become a better listener. The Bible is clear that we should be slow to speak, slow to become angry, and quick to hear. And so how can we become a great listener? Well, the first thing that we can do is to repeat key phrases, and I talked about that when the girl went to the garage. And the second thing that we can do is to rephrase. Take what they're saying and put it in our own words, and then regroup, hand the conversation back, and give him a chance to clarify. And this is really hard for us. We like to hold on to the conversation, but the more sensitive or the more volatile a topic is, the more important it is that we regroup by giving them an opportunity to clarify what they were saying. And lastly is we can reconnect. We can reconnect. And so your husband's going to be sharing something. And in that story someplace, there's an emotion. And simply ask yourself, have I ever felt like that? Now, the circumstances might be very different, but ask yourself if you've ever felt the same way. Because what you're trying to go for is matching emotion to emotion or heart to heart to gain a connection. And let me just give you an illustration about how this can go a couple of different ways. And so Bill and I, he walked in one day and he said to me, Pam, I think you're too busy. Now I have a choice right there. I can, repeat key phrases and I can say, oh, you think I'm too busy? Or I can react. Okay, so that day I chose to repeat key phrases. So you think that I'm too busy? Well, actually, think we're both too busy. Oh, you think we're both too busy? Well, really, it's just like when I go to work, I'm just totally overwhelmed. Oh, you're really overwhelmed, honey? Yeah, there's so much on my plate. And so when I go there, I just feel like I'm going to totally fail. You feel like you're going to fail? Yeah. When I was growing up, my mom used to like say all those crazy things like, you'll never be anything, you never amount to anything. And so when I go into work, it's like I hear her voice, and it's making me feel like I'm going to fail. Oh, I'm so sorry, honey. Is it kind of like that time? Remember that I was sharing that story about my dad, and he had been like drinking all day, and I brought home a report card. I was like in 7th grade, and my report card said 100%, 100%, 100%, 100%, 99.9, and Dad looked at that 99.9, and he's like, "Why isn't that 100? Does it feel like kind of like that?" He's like, "Yeah, kind of. Like even though you do your best, it still wouldn't be enough. Is that how you're feeling?" Exactly. I'm so sorry, honey. And then I prayed for him. Now, can you imagine the difference? That was like an important moment in our marriage. Now, can you imagine the difference had he walked in and said, "So, Pam, I think you're too busy." What if I would have reacted? "You think that I'm too busy? You think that I'm too busy? Maybe it's because I'm like doing everything around this house. I got these 3 kids. I'm driving around town. I'm like working at your church. I'm like writing books for you. I'm doing the dishes. I'm doing the laundry. Maybe if you would take out the trash on occasion, I wouldn't be so busy." Yeah. Kind of ends 2 different ways, doesn't it? And the choice is always ours. Conflict or connection. And when we choose to repeat key phrases, we gain the connection that we're looking for. I'm going to give you girls a chance to practice this because it's not easy to make this choice. So, conflict versus connection. Yeah. And so when you repeat key phrases and use those 4 simple steps of repeating key phrases, rephrasing, regrouping, and then reconnecting, you gain the connection. And so I want to give you a question, and let's make it an easy question, okay? If you could rendezvous with your husband any place on the face of this globe, where would you want to go and why? Now, I have an idea for you. We're doing a cruise next January, so I'd love you to come with us, but you might have all kinds of things in your mind, because us girls, we watch the Travel Channel, and our minds are like spaghetti. We have like 5 or 6 ideas, like right now in our brain, right? And so I want one of you to choose to be the first listener and one of you to choose to be the first talker, okay? So in groups of 2. And the first talker is going to share where you would want to go on a romantic getaway with your husband and why. The listener, here's the key, the listener only gets to repeat key phrases. That's all. No other comments, just repeat key phrases, okay? Ready? And then I'll tell you when to switch and you can take turns. Ready? Go. Okay, trade. If you haven't yet, trade. It is hard, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, so how many of you found that kind of hard to only repeat key phrases? It's really very difficult to hold ourselves back. All of us want to like throw in our editorial comments. But to get our husband to open up, we have to become really, really good at this. In fact, how many of you are raising boys? Awesome. Well, yeah. So to help my boys learn conversation skills, I would take a soccer ball and I would ask a question and kick the soccer ball to them, and they had to answer my question and then come up with a question and kick the soccer ball back. And so that taught me to be a patient listener. It taught them how to ask questions so that their wives would love them someday and my daughter-in-laws would appreciate me. And that day has happened. Now 2 of my 3 are married. Yeah, so it's working. So, because my boys went from, so how was your day? To like, now they're like very intuitive. They were in this room like, well, how are you doing? Well, how long have you been? I'm like very good conversationalist. So, if you're raising boys, really help them on conversation. If you're raising girls, here's a tip. Set the timer. You can only talk for so long at a time. Then it's somebody else's turn. Yeah, and as they get older, and they get that, if they see a boy with their glazed look on their face, like teach them. That means it's his turn now. Yes. Oh, if you rewarded her for it, it could. Yeah, because my granddaughter is 5, and they're doing it with Eden. Yeah, if she just keeps going, ooh, okay, we're gonna set the timer now, and that's gonna be Callan's turn to talk, and I mean Rocco's turn to talk. And if you can make it, if you can stop talking when that goes off, then you'll get to this afternoon. Yeah, you can start it pretty young. Yeah, and then preschool is when I started the soccer ball thing with my son too. Okay, so men are like waffles and like spaghetti. We definitely relate differently. The way we communicate is very different. We also relax differently. The way we relieve stress is very different. How we women relieve stress is we talk our way through stress. Like when I am stressed out, my mom knows it, my sister knows it, my best friend knows it, the clerk at Walmart will know it. Yeah. So we talk our way through stress. But that's not how guys process stress. How guys process stress is they like to go to their favorite easy box to rest and recharge. And so it looks kind of like the battery in a battery recharger. If you look at a battery sitting in a battery recharger, what does it look like the battery's doing? Nothing, but it's doing something. It's recharging. So a lot of times when our husband's in his favorite easy box, it doesn't look like he's doing anything. We like walk in and he's like watching TV and we're like, can't you see the world's falling apart? And you're what, doing nothing? We walk in, he's playing like Xbox. Like, can't you see the kids need you? And you're what, doing nothing? But he's doing something, he's recharging. But God's kind of helped us girls out so we could recognize these favorite recharger boxes of men, in that most of those recharger boxes are shaped like boxes when you think about it. The TV screen is shaped like a box, Xbox is shaped like a box, the computer is shaped like a box, the garage is shaped like a box, the football field is shaped like a box, the soccer goal is shaped like a box, pool table is shaped like a box, your iPhone is shaped like a box, and the refrigerator is shaped like the box, and the bed is shaped like a box. In fact, that sex box is a favorite box for husbands to go to when they're all stressed out. It's kind of like the free square in the middle of a bingo card, and they can get there from every other square on their waffle. Yeah. So we definitely process stress differently. There's a couple of things we girls can do to lower the stress in our home from our side of the equation. And the first is to give some kind of a warning that our stress level is rising. And for example, I was speaking at a large conference in Orange County, and I lived way down in El Cajon. And I had to go home, pick up Bill, grab our suitcases to get to the airport to catch the last flight out on Sunday afternoon to be on live TV across Canada on Monday. So we could not miss that flight. The conference ran late. I called Bill. I'm like, honey, the conference ran late. There's like 5 or 6 things I need you to do. And Bill said, Pam, there's good news and bad news. The good news is I love you, hon. The bad news is I'm in Oceanside with Brock because his car is broken down and we're waiting for the tow truck. And so there's actually 5 or 6 things I need you to do and then come pick me up. And so I got home. My youngest son was with the family. He stays with when we travel, a set of grandparents. And only my then 13-year-old son, Zach, was home. And we like to say of our son, Zach, that he marches to the beat of a different accordion. And so how many of you have ADD kids? Oh, a few of us. Oh, look, it's the mentor moms. That's hilarious. Yeah. It is. We learn to be great moms with those ADD kids, don't we? Yeah. So anyway, I talk about Zach in 10 Best Decisions a Parent Can Make. That's the only reason I bring that up. So that's our son. When I'm hitting the door, it's ADD Zach, 13, that's there. And I'm like, Zach, Mom and Dad, we have to catch the last plane out because we have to leave to Canada and we can't miss this. This is what I need you to do. I just reeled off this long list verbally. Well, I know better than that. That is not how you delegate to boys. How you delegate to boys is you write one task on one square Post-it note. You line the Post-it notes across the television set, and you say to that boy, you cannot turn on that TV till those Post-it notes are accomplished. That's how you delegate to boys. But I didn't do that day. I just reeled off this long list verbally. Well, I went to my room to do the first thing on my list, and I came across the living room towards my office, and Zach was doing the first thing on his list, but kind of in Zach time. The kid was like born cool, and I wanted to just scream at him, but the Holy Spirit inside me said, Pam, don't you be yelling at that child. It is not his problem that you didn't put enough margin in here. You own your issue, girl, and don't be yelling at that kid. I know, God, but I need to get him in gear. He needs to move faster. We're going to miss that plane. Word pictures. Oh, thank you, Lord. That's right. Word pictures. Guys respond to word pictures. Zachary Hun, yes, ma'am. Okay, you know that Mom and Dad, we teach that men are like waffles, like spaghetti. Yes, ma'am. Okay, what happens when you put a whole bunch of pasta noodles into a pan of boiling water and then the water all boils out? He's like, pasta explosion? I'm like, that's right. That's what's going to happen here. This pasta is ready to explode. He's like, oh, Mom, why didn't you tell me it was like a pasta princess moment? And I'm like, Zach, that is so incredibly brilliant. So from that point on, anytime I was stressed out, all I had to do was walk in the house, say, pasta princess is home. And Bill has taught the boys, the only thing safe for a male to say to a stressed out woman is, what can I do to help you, ma'am? Yeah. So give some kind of a warning signal that your stress level is rising. One of my friends lives up in Portland area. Hers is Mount St. Helens. Yeah, she's going to blow. She gives her family notice. So some kind of a warning signal. The second thing that we can do is to realize that our minds are wired differently. You know, estrogen and testosterone, that is a reality. And so our minds are wired differently. And so what that means when we're stressed, when one thing's wrong, like everything's wrong, that fear or frustration can just travel on that plate of spaghetti and take over our minds. And we need a way to manage that. Let me give you an illustration. So Bill and I, when we were newlyweds, there's this principle that we teach in Men Are Like Waffles, Like Spaghetti, that the thing you love most about your spouse can become a source of irritation. That thing you first fell in love with can just tick you off after a while. It's like two sides of the same coin. And you need a way to turn it over and remember, oh, yeah, that's why I love the guy. Okay, so one of the things I first fell in love with Bill is he's a great listener. Like if you come to one of our conferences, he'll at the book table, he'll talk to you and he'll treat you like you're the only person on the face of this globe. But because of that, he doesn't check his watch. And so he's always running like 10 or 15 minutes late. Thus the irritation. And so it'd be very easy for me to get frustrated. As a newlywed, I'd be standing there, where is Bill? He said he'd be home by now. Where is he? Was a youth pastor. I bet some cute little high school girl just walked into his office. Oh, come on, Pam. He doesn't meet with a girl by himself. Super. She brought a friend. Now there's 2 high school girls talking to my husband. Oh, come on, Pam. He's probably on his way home. But where is he, Lord? He's not here. He's been hit by a bus. He's laying bleeding on the side of the road. Well, serves him right, God, for standing there talking to those 2 cute chicks. And he walks in, it's like, judge, jury, hang that man. He hasn't even done anything wrong. It's all in my mind. And so the Bible gives us great advice when it says, and take those thoughts captive. And how that plays out in my mind is when my mind starts spinning and my stress level starts going up, I say, whoa, stop. What's the truth here? The truth is something I love about Bill is irritating me. I'm going to turn the coin over. Instead of criticizing Bill when he came home late, I began to compliment him. I bet you really encouraged somebody. You're such a great listener. It's so great to have you home. And when I began to compliment instead of criticize, Bill would jump in and help with the kids. He might do the dishes. I might get sex tonight. It was like all good. And so we can choose to compliment, and it'll become a powerful ally in our lives. So, second question. When your husband's stressed, other than the bingo box, where does he like to go to recharge? Take a moment, see if you can identify where he wants to recharge. Go. Men are like waffles, we like spaghetti. We relate differently, we relax differently, and lastly, we romance differently. How to impress a wife. Compliment her, cuddle her, kiss her, caress her, love her, stroke her, tease her, comfort her, protect her, hug her, hold her, spend money on her, dine her, buy things for her, listen to her, care for her, stand by her, support her, go to the ends of the earth for her. How to impress a husband? Show up naked. We are definitely different when it comes to the area of sex. And so our mentors in ministry are Jim and Sally Conway, and they have an illustration that they use that men are kind of like, first, we women are kind of like an electric burner on a stove. If we go up to a stove and we turn the burner on, it's electric, and we can put our hand on it. It's like totally cold, and it takes a while to warm up. But then we can turn it off, and it's still red hot for a while, and it takes a while for it to cool down. That's how we women respond sexually. But how guys respond sexually is more like a gas flame, instant on, instant off. That's how guys respond sexually. So it's really wonderful to give the gift of, timing all of that so that you come to climax at the same time. Woo, yay, orgasm, fireworks, all that good stuff. But it's equally wonderful to give the gift of understanding those differences. And so sometimes Bill will say to me, Pam, we have all night. This one's for you. And sometimes I'll walk into his office at home and I'll say, I got a minute. This one's for you. So we are definitely different. And I just want to give you a little encouragement. Our life cycle, the way we respond sexually over the course of our life, is patterned by God. And so, guys, early on, testosterone is high in their life. 18 through about 40 is when they, have the highest testosterone. But our hormones, because our kids are taken so much when we're childbearing, they actually peak about the time our husbands start coming down, ours start going up. And so right now, like your husband's probably always interested in sex. And so it's like, you step out of the shower, he's like, now's a good time. And you do the dishes, like, now's a good time. And you're getting dressed, like, now's a good time. And the kids go down for a nap, now's a good time. And you're like, he's like, seems like he's always interested. Well, the Bible tells us not to deny one another. And I remember the first time I read that, I'm like, Lord, I really want to say yes to Bill as much as possible. But you also know that I really legitimately struggle with migraine headaches. And so I literally could say, not tonight, I have a headache, and it would be like truth. But God, I think you could solve this for me. And so I went to the doctor. I was going to talk to my doctor about migraines. And I'm sitting in the doctor's office, and I'm thumbing through this magazine. And there's this little sidebar that says that sex is great for migraines because it opens up those blood vessels. And so now it's, yes, tonight I have a headache. And but really the biggest motivator for me was I want a love that lasts a lifetime. And so the more I say yes to Bill in those early years, the more he'll remember that and cherish that, so that as his testosterone starts going down in those later years after 40 and ours start peaking, and we see him, with his hands in the, working on the car, we're like, that grease, an aphrodisiac, now's a good time. And we see him, being responsible dad, building something in the backyard, like, oh, now's a good time. And, we see him, walk in the door with his briefcase, we're like, drop that briefcase, now's a good time. And so it will boomerang back to bless you if you bless your man. And so, in all of this, oftentimes it takes, creativity to stay in love for a lifetime. In Men Are Like Waffles, Like Spaghetti, we have 25 free or nearly free things. We have a list of romantic ideas. On our website, Lovewise, we have recession romance ideas, things that you can do that don't really cost much in this crazy economy. In Red Hot Monogamy, this book's all about sex because we think that sex was God's secret a long time before it was like Victoria's secret. And so we think he ought to take back that gift. And so it looks at the Song of Solomon. There's 8 chapters in Song of Solomon. There's 8 chapters in Red Hot Monogamy, looking at the 8 areas that you can build intimacy. And there's 200 red hot ideas in there. So there's plenty of ways to help us stay creative. But oftentimes, it takes groups like this, encouraging each other, we can do this thing. And so I have a little assignment that after I share this last story that I want you to do. Because it really does take some creativity to stay in love for a lifetime, like this one couple that we know. And they had one little boy, and he was like about 8. And 8 is that oasis time in a family, and I call it an oasis time because they're kind of out of diapers, but they're not teenagers with an attitude. So this little oasis where your kids think, you're like the smartest, most beautiful person in the whole world. Work with it, girls. It's a great time. And so mom said to her husband, we really need to get some time. He's like always like wants to be right where we are. And he always, he jumps in the bed and like interrupts there. And we like start talking, and he's always wants to be in the middle of the conversation. We just need a little time just for us. And so she said, I think I have an idea. Hey, buddy, come here. So she brings her little boy in. Okay, here's the deal. We have figured out that this neighborhood needs a neighborhood spy, and we think you are just the man for the job. So what we want you to do is just stand right here on the balcony. They live in an apartment complex. I want you to stand right here on the balcony, and we just want you to look out with these binoculars. We want you to look out and just check on the neighborhood, and make sure everything's okay. Mom and Dad, we're going to be in our bedroom taking notes. And so we'll come back and get you, but you just like shout out. You just shout out everything that's going on. So they, sneak away to their bedroom. They think they have just enough time for a little red hot monogamy. And so the little boy, he's standing there on the patio, and he's like yelling out, yeah, I see some skateboarders in the park, and oh, the Jones twins are out there riding their bikes. And there's some teenage boys at the basketball. Ooh, I think they might have an argument. I think there's going to be a fight. No, never mind. There's a police officer. That's all right. Oh, yeah, Mr. Anderson, he's mowing his lawn. Yeah, the Johnsons are having sex. And they sat up in the bed. They're like, how do you know that? Because their kids are on the balcony, too. So I hope our kids meet your kids on the balcony real soon. Hey, so at your tables here, I'm going to be at the back for the rest of our time. And if you have any questions, feel free to stop by. But I'm going to do a drawing, so make sure you fill out that and give me your email, and we'll give away a book for that Red Hot Romance Tips. So in case one of you want to join in April 2nd with that Red Hot Romance Wife Challenge. And at your tables, I want you to try to think of, like, one of the questions I want you to start with. It's an easy one. What are some free and nearly free things that you can do around here to date your mate? So begin sharing there. And then I want you to jump over and talk about what's one thing you learned today that you think you can apply that will make your marriage better and will help you value and appreciate that waffle guy that you live with, okay?